I've had to re-educate myself on Baltimore, on its history of racism. I've had to learn a new vocabulary. I've had to do a lot of things that in the past I didn't give a second thought to. I thought I knew a lot about it, but I don't. And I think I speak for a lot of us on this call to make sure that we all understand we've got to be part of this solution and educate ourselves. So I do see one step in this process of changing our culture will be a broad educational effort that each of us participates in, and we learn what people have been going through, what it feels like to be a Black faculty member or a Hispanic staff member or whatever here. And I expect that will lead us to many thoughtful, action-driven sets of things that we need to do in order to change this culture. And I expect us to be held accountable for these changes. And yes, I hold myself accountable, but I think we each need to hold ourselves accountable. Now, there's several steps I've taken already, and I'd like to further develop those steps. We are in the process of recruiting a diversity, equity, and inclusion officer. Dr. Jane Kirschling and Ms. Dawn Rhodes are leading that search committee, and it is already active. And I envision that individual reporting to the president, having significant resources and authority to make change, having a charge to interact with the diversity officers in each of the schools, as well as the diversity advisory council and the president's council for women. I want this individual to have a broad view of our institution within our four walls and have the wherewithal to gain consensus and to move our institution forward. I hope to have this individual in place by the end of this year and hope that we'll get a premier individual because this is a special opportunity. That individual, along with many of you on the call, will help us understand what parts of UMB actually do have structural racism in them, and where we find those types of problems, we need to illuminate them. We need to develop an action plan, and then we need to dismantle them and put other things in place. And this isn't just for the African American community, it's broadly for our community wherever we're disadvantaging our members. This will bring us into a bright future. Yes, that's been a dark past, and it's time to illuminate it and move forward. So my second priority will be to keep this part of our flame burning bright so that we make this an inclusive culture at UMB. My last priority relates to our role in the state. We are an institution, an anchor institution for the West Baltimore community. We've made great progress there, and yet COVID has taken a lot of wind out of our sails because we can't do in-person things. So we need to keep the intensity up there while we're working remotely, but then we need to be prepared to get back out in that community as soon as we can. I have no doubt that people are suffering and life in that community has its downs for sure. We have just recently opened our Community Engagement Center, and I look forward to the time when we can populate that with activities for the local community, certainly under their guidance and goodwill. We have an active cure program, and we still need to support that program. I think they just entered their 6th cohort, so there's young men and women in that program that are in their 11th grade as well. So we've got marvelous programs out in West Baltimore. But I see our obligation not just to the West Baltimore community, but around the state as well. I mentioned that I grew up in Caroline County, and a summer ago, I visited the Mid and Lower Shore. That's a 6-county area to sort of understand what the problems were. And what I saw was a very underserved community with poor access to health care, lots of disease burden. In fact, I was surprised to see that the whole mid-shore was in the bottom 5 of the counties in Maryland. I looked at my own county, and in terms of its health statistics, its access to care, et cetera, it was almost dead even last with Baltimore City. So those are suffering communities too, and we're a state institution. So we have an obligation there to deal with those underserved individuals, and this includes where else it is in the state. And I know Western Maryland has its share of difficulty. Certainly Prince George's County does. There are other counties. I don't want to leave anybody out, but at the same time, we have an obligation to pay attention to that. So we have to recognize their role. And I'm happy to tell you that we have we have two strong partners in this. One is UMMC, UMMS. The leadership there is supportive of this. And two, I know that the Department of Health in the state of Maryland are committed to this as well. So I want UMB to be a partner in this. I've learned over the past months that if you train people in a local underserved community, there's a higher likelihood that they will stay there. So my hope is to have training programs, partnerships, resources, and other activities going into there to collaborate with the community. So that's my last priority. So in the last 15 minutes or so, I've given you a broad outline of what I hope to accomplish in the next 5 years. It'll be a partnership. I'll need your help to do this. And yet it's a very noble cause, which I think we should be committed to. So I look forward to your participation in this. And at this point, I think that ends any formal comments. And Alex, I know we've got some questions. So how would you like to start there, Alex?
We do, and I apologize on behalf of WebEx for some technical difficulties, as you know, we all experience with these things we go through with these group meetings. But we're back on track now. We have Jonathan Bradley, who has a question about partnerships and collaborations going forward. Jonathan, are you there?
Let's see. I am. Am I on?
Yes, you are. Go ahead, sir.
Great. Well, I really appreciate the time. I think we're in a very exciting period. You know, we'll move on. I appreciate the time. Regarding the partnership alliance or anchor institutions or strategy, whether it's community, 506c3 or academic institutions, one of the things that I've heard, namely through the dean at Carey Business School, is the alliance in working more closely with UMB. And for an example, the law school, you know, or the dental school. Hopkins doesn't have those schools or areas of professional development, and not to make Baltimore as a east-west, city, but I'm just wondering going forward, is that something that you believe will be fortified, or is UMB taking it sort of more as a geographical type of driven strategy?
Great. Thank you for your question. My comment would be that, of course, we're committed to the West Baltimore community, but I'm very pleased to tell you that I and others have played a major role in developing a joint NIH-sponsored program with Johns Hopkins. Johns Hopkins is the lead agency where we're really looking at Baltimore as well as the state, I would say, in terms of healthcare and other service things together. So I consider them a partner. I consider them a very vital partner. We've done more than scratch the surface. We've certainly got a lot more to do, but I do see our working together on these kinds of programs. So thank you for that question.
Thank you.
Alex?
Dr. Jarrell, we don't have any other questions right at the moment. Hopefully people will speak up. I know they're probably thinking about some of the things you said. We do have members of administration in the audience, if you'd like to bring any of them forward to talk a little more about some of the things you discussed.
Well, why don't I ask a few, and I hope what my comments were came through. We do have Ms. Dawn Rhodes on the call. She's the Chief Business and Financial Officer at UMB. Ms. Rhodes, I wonder if you'd make a few comments on where we see this very naughty budget right now and what you see for the future. Dawn?
I think what I would say is that we've had a challenging budget year, putting fiscal year 21 budget in place, and we will continue those challenges. My best estimate is fiscal year 22, 23, and hopefully fiscal year 24 will begin to turn around. We're all in this together. We're trying to work through budget challenges very thoughtfully. And at the end of the day, we will get through this. This happens in higher education and goes in ebbs and flows, and we will be resilient. Can I add one other thing about the DEI search?
Yes.
Post to December, we think we'll be able to be January when we're actually able to extend an offer. So I just wanted to make people aware of that adjustment.
Great. Thank you for that, Dawn. And the point being that we have put this on fast track. This started several months ago, after receiving advice at another town hall, as well as from the Diversity Advisory Council, that this was something that they wanted to see happen. So that's happening pretty quickly. Alex?
All right, we have Meredith Upton. Let me see if I can get to you, Meredith. There you are. Are you with us?
Yes. Hi.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Jarrell, Alex, very much for bringing us all together. And I think one of the big conversations we're having in the world of philanthropy and central campuses, I'm wondering what your fundraising priorities are going to be for the campus.
So thank you, Meredith. Meredith is in our fundraising and our philanthropic activity. And of course, I should turn that back around to her and say, how are you going to help me do that? You know, Meredith and I and a number of others used to hold quite a few in-person meetings with groups and with individuals to develop friends and relationships. Now I have to do all of that on Zoom. My golly, it's a different animal. What's going to change about fundraising?
This guy, Lauren.
Alex, you there?
I'm here. Somebody has gotten into the system, so I'm going to mute everyone here.
Okay, so I think the answer to your question is we need to do a lot of fundraising. We need to provide support for the schools because all of these activities that we've talked about requires money. So my plan is to spend at least 40 to 50% of my time on activities that have to do with fundraising, because in the end, that's a major enabler of whether we'll be successful or not. So that's my commitment to it. Alex?
All right, next we have Nick Cowanhoven, who, as I'm sure you know, is leading the effort to build the Academy of Lifelong Learning. Nick, are you there?
I am. Thank you, Alex. My question is, when the pandemic arrived, we were thrust into a position where the importance of technology in education and communication has never been as great as it is now, and it will probably never go back. How do you see making sure that professors and students have a as rich as possible experience, if it's blended, how that sort of go across in your planning? And I know that may be a question for our chief technology officer, but it seems like we're never going back.
Well, let me start with, I know Provost Ward is on the call. Do you have him, Alex?
Let me see if he's here. Yes, he is. Do you want me to bring him up?
Why don't you let him start, because he just hosted a symposium on that.
Okay. All right, Dr. Ward, if you could turn your camera on, please. You're unmuted and you can go ahead. Go ahead, Roger.
All right, so.
Oh, there you are.
Gee, Nick, thank you for that question. Good handoff, President Jarrell. Congratulations again on your permanent appointment. It's a good question, Nick. And I think it also feeds into a point President Jarrell raised earlier about, of course, we first in dealing with COVID-19, we're in a response phase. In dealing with the pandemic, we're now in a recovery phase, and Dr. Jarrell mentioned moving, hopefully relatively soon, to the reimagination and repositioning phase. And one of the conversations we had earlier this week, or at least I had earlier this week with John Kushkar, who's leading our recovery task force, is reaching out to the folks who are leading those working groups of the recovery process to ask them, because we've already started hearing suggestions and ideas from them about things that we are doing now, that we have put in place to respond to the pandemic, that we may need to extend going forward, even post COVID-19. And I suspect, and in fact, I know that how we teach and how we learn and how our students learn will feature prominently in that forward-looking conversation. And so once we get to that reimagination, repositioning phase, hopefully what we would have learned from the spring semester, where we had to go into emergency teach out more to get through spring semester, and certainly what our faculty and our students for that matter would have learned from, especially as it relates to the didactic education, what they are learning now, faculty and students, from engaging in distance education, online education, if you will inform what we do going forward. The idea of learning online isn't entirely new to UMB. I think a lot of you know that some of our schools, including nursing, including the graduate school, including pharmacy, including the School of Law, had online programs before COVID, and certainly had faculty and others with the expertise in teaching online. Obviously, we've had to ramp up that expertise in response to COVID-19. And we recently did a faculty survey to learn from the lived experiences of our faculty to date teaching online, what's working well for them, what's not. And they provided very, very good feedback even in that initial survey. We plan to survey the faculty again towards the end of the fall semester to do a time 1, time 2 comparison of those experiences, and we intend to use that information to inform additional investments in our IT infrastructure to support online teaching and learning. I think it's going to become a more prominent feature about how we deliver our instruction, especially our didactic instruction. The clinical components that are very important to all of our professional programs in particular. Of course, there are ways in which you could use technology there as well as it relates to simulation and so on. And a lot of that stuff needs to remain in person because of the nature of the education that learning that needs to happen in those clinical environments. But I think we have opportunities before us for becoming a lot more adept at using technology to help with our instruction.
But thank you for your question, Nick. The one other comment I would make is that UMB needs to be an enabler and an expediter of these changes. I have no doubt that how it gets implemented in each school and what will need to be tailored in each school will be unique. So I have to be very attentive to making sure that I serve those needs as well. So that's certainly on the list here about responding to COVID. Alex, can we proceed to another?
Yes, sir. We have 2 questioners who prefer to remain anonymous. The first asks, I know so many of us are curious about whether teleworking will be different, and that is to say, approved a lot more than it has been in the past, now that we know the situation is likely to last a while longer. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I'll give you my thoughts on that, and that is that we're going to continue teleworking for a while. We at least need to see what this winter-fall surge is going to be about, because remember, the objective is to keep people as safe as we can, and if that means keeping the density at campus lower, it means keeping the density lower. What do I think the long-term effects will be? I think that there's a lot of bright people sitting at home, teleworking, figuring out, there's a bunch of things that I'm actually more efficient on, and certainly at least as efficient, and I didn't have to drive into work today. So I think that there will be a resetting of that. Now, having said that, we'll have to figure out how to do that within the state rules. They'll have opinions about that, and we will obviously follow the state rules. But I anticipate that this will be an opportunity to be creative and reinvent certainly one part of the way we live these days. So I do expect change there. I think it'll be changed for the better, quite frankly. You know, I also saw some data talking about pollution in the United States. I'm talking about air pollution, particularly due to cars, not forest fires, but cars. And the pollution was significantly down. So there's a lot of benefits to this beside our own benefits of being more efficient, et cetera. There is a fine line. And what I'm finding is that there are many things I can do online. There are other things that I can't do well online. And so we'll have to figure out when and where and how to do it safely. But I think we're in for a vibrant discussion about this topic and hopefully some changes in our past practices relative to telework. Alex?
All right, the other anonymous question is about the 4MLK project and what's going on with that right now.
Do we have Jim Hughes on the line?
We don't have Tim. We have Jane Shaw, and I've asked her.
Oh, please.
I don't know if she's able to talk about it, but we can put her on the spot. Jane, I'm sorry if you if I'm putting you on the spot here, but if you turn your camera on, and if you don't have the answers, just let us know. But Jane, are you with us?
Can you hear me?
I certainly can hear you, yes.
So good afternoon, Dr. Jarrell. Such a pleasure to have this kind of visit with you. Thank you very much. And just as Dr. Ward said, all of our congratulations to you again as our president. 4MLK, as we all know, the building is a privately owned building, owned and developed by Wexford Science and Technology and their parent, Ventas. We meet with them on a regular basis, a weekly basis. That developer is taking a look at our 4MLK building. They're looking at some budgetary modifications to the project. And I am an eternal forward-thinking, positive person. I truly do believe we'll be inviting Dr. Jarrell to lead a groundbreaking Q1 or Q2 in 2021. So we invite you all to take a look at the northwest corner of West Baltimore and Martin Luther King and vision and imagine, as we're being challenged this afternoon, to see a brand new research building for private companies who will partner with the university. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. And I see Jim Hughes joined us. Hey, Jim, you can talk about that. And why don't you talk about the future of philanthropy too, since you're in that interim position?
Well, thank you very much. I don't know that there's much for me to add to what Jane had to say. We are very focused on 4MLK, and as Jane says, hopeful that we'll get started in the new year. Philanthropy, we have a lot of great things going on with philanthropy. Although the economy is tough these days and people are uncertain about the future, we're also finding a lot of very strong support for the programs in the schools and then also for UMB's community initiatives, some of the programs that Jane's been heading up and working with Peter Murray and Brian Sertovan on the digital divide. So UMB is going to be working with donors to provide internet access for 1,000 families in West Baltimore. And we've been working with the local schools there to identify the families whose children need internet access to do schoolwork, and maybe their parents need internet access to look for a job or do a job. So UMB, this is going to be rolled out over the next couple of weeks, but people will start getting free internet service from Comcast. So that's a wonderful impact that we're having.
That's a great story. And Jane mentioned the groundbreaking for 4MLK. A number of us were at the groundbreaking for the new Catholic school there, right next to it almost. And that school is coming along really very rapidly. So the landscape over there has changed very significantly. And hopefully we can keep moving in that direction. Alex?
Yes, sir. Another member of our audience wants to know if you can expand on your comment earlier about the importance of UMB's research enterprise. What are your priorities on research at UMB, including the biopark and working with College Park?
Yeah, great question. And I certainly am happy to address that one. We have seen firsthand, haven't we, having a major enterprise in coronavirus basic science research, a center for vaccine development where we're actually very involved in the new vaccine trials, et cetera, is concerned, and many other aspects of our research enterprise. So if there's anything I would want to say clearly, it's our research has served us very, very well, and this is something we need to continue. But I would add that COVID, you can think of it as an infectious disease, but I would think of it as much more broadly than that. It is a social scourge. It is many other problems. And so moving this needle forward includes not just the basic and translational science of it, but also the social, the economic, and other impacts of this. And one of the things I'm pleased to say about, particularly relative to this in College Park, is that President Pines, who's a very good colleague and friend, and I are talking very much about a broad approach to pandemic preparedness relative to our two institutions. So he and I are going to put a priority on trying to develop that type of program. I think it's critical. I think everything that we do here in research is important, but I want to add that it needs to involve all the schools because this is a broad pandemic, not just a pandemic of one little virus. It's got a very broad impact. So thank you for the question, and Empower will be very much involved with this kind of effort jointly. Alex?
Yeah, I would just add that it's also an exciting year because for the first time, we're going to combine our research spending numbers and report as one university. So there's going to be a lot of excitement around that, I think.
Yeah, if Jim is still on the line, Jim, could you tell us the numbers for College Park and UMB separately, and then what that comes out to together, so I don't misquote it?
Yes, so UMB has had its best year ever. We're at about $685 million in awards this past year. I don't have the exact College Park numbers, but they are around 640 million. So between the two of us, we will be topping $1.3 billion for the first time ever.
Which is phenomenal. And what Alex was referring to was we have also now agreed with the National Science Foundation in their higher education research and development rankings to combine our two universities together as one. We don't know exactly what the rank will be, but we're sure it'll be in the top 15 in the nation. But we got to see that. The rankings don't come out till somewhere between November and January. So we're all sitting very expectantly, waiting to see the fruits of a lot of really hard labor. Empower has worked hard to put joint programs together and seek new funding sources. And I think in part you're seeing some of that. So thank you for that question.
And thank you for clearing that up. Adrian Arthur, who oversees that effort, has written in that we're talking about the HERD numbers, which is the higher education research and development spending, and that the total is 1.096 billion combined.
Right.
So that is very good.
So for the audience, just remember there's awards and there's expenditures. Okay, so NSF works off of expenditures, I believe. What Jim just gave was awards. So the numbers are different. But the important thing I think you can see is that they're growing as well. So that's a good sign.
Well, sure, you get an award and you spend it over a period of years, presumably, if you have a long research operation. Yeah.
Yes.
Another anonymous question, and I think well, it's not an anonymous question. It's a comment that I should mention that there are tours available for the Community Engagement Center, small groups, 5 or less, if people are interested. And, you've been there and it's remarkable. It's a tremendous venue and all of us who are involved in any way at all can't wait for it to open.
So that must be Tyrone's question. So Tyrone, tell us about that, please.
That wasn't Tyrone, but I'm gonna go ahead and get him on the line.
So Tyrone is our director of the Community Engagement Center, and he's been there and very involved with the opening of it, with the local community, et cetera. Tyrone, you there?
Tyrone, you can turn your camera on too if you want.
I am. How's everyone?
Okay, very good.
Good. In the new center, I was set up. Great question. I was hoping to be able to skate through this. So we're providing tours of the new community engagement center. So as you can see, for those that had attended the previous community engagement center, I'm now permanently in our new center. Our old center is now completely vacated, and we're now situated in this new space. It's such an awesome space. This is such a major commitment from the University of Maryland, Baltimore, and a number of partners to make this project happen, to bring it to fruition. So right now we're in the process of providing tours to anyone interested. This is a space where we want to be able to see all of our neighbors, partners come in and really see and share the excitement that we have with this new center. What I'll do, Alex, is I'll share the link, and if you could share with everyone where they can simply just register. It's all automated. It prompts up and populates our calendars. So we'll know who we should be expecting for a tour. So yes, it's an exciting time for all of us.
So Tyrone just mentioned for a second about the different kinds of spaces there, the medical clinic, the secure scholars. Mention that.
I will. So there's a lot of space here. I want to say we have about 18 rooms. And I'll preference everything this way. So what we do in the Community Engagement Center is we offer provisions. There's 5 provisions that we provide here. We do programs, services, supports, trainings, and activities. All of those things exist under the Community Engagement Center, and it's through the lifespan. So anyone from the age of 0 through whatever age, you are able to come here and benefit from a provision. We're super excited about when the doors will be opening. One of the things we intend on doing on the 3rd floor within our health suite is providing health screenings, dental screenings, things of that nature. Started some early conversations with School of Physical Therapy. We want to be able to develop a process for our older adults to potentially benefit from mobility work in the space that we provide here. Care Scholars, one of our historical partners, they'll also be in the building. They have three rooms in which they'll be providing programming for about 150 Baltimore City youth. In addition to that, we remain equally excited for our PAL program. Our PAL program continues to grow. We're continuing to strengthen it. We have space for the young folks there as well. And then also our Ready to Tech program. That's the program in partnership with Under Armour, Baltimore City Recreation and Parks, and James McHenry Middle and Elementary School. Those are partners that will be part of this effort, building out the provisions with a very specific focus for youth. Nonetheless, I'm really intentional and passionate about our older adults. So I want to make sure that when our doors open, we have provisions available for the older adults. Things where they're able to come in, spend some time here. Even if they want to simply come in and spend time in our wellness room, just for some time to meditate and gather themselves. This is a space that's really, it's available for all of our neighbors through the lifespan again.
Great. It's a fabulous facility, and it was my pleasure to be there, and I'm looking forward to being there again. And I think it underscores one of the UMB priorities, one of my priorities, to keep programs like that very vital. And as part of our community, we're in the community. We are part of the community. So thank you for that, Tyrone.
Very welcome.
Okay, Alex.
Well, there's a question. Someone wants to know about Archie and Alexi. Remember Archie and Alexi?
Yes.
Where are they and how are they doing?
Dawn, do you or Chief Leone want to take on that one?
Well, let me see if I can get Chief Leone here. Hold on just a second. Go ahead, Chief.
Hello, thanks for having me. Like you guys, I've tried to pull Tyrone's move and get through this without making an appearance. But Archie's retired. Archie moved with Alice Carey, Chief Carey, to Illinois. But Lexi is here on campus. She's doing visits 2 times a week, I think on Tuesdays and Thursdays. But we'll get the information out, and you guys can request her if you're here on campus.
Right, Chief, maybe you might make a comment about safety on campus, because of course, I just finished saying how important safety on campus was, not just for COVID, but in terms of crime as well. Any comments there?
Yes, no. So campus itself, we have our full security force out and about, police and security. Security, we tried a little different strategy this year. It's a robust plan. We have our officers out from 7 a to 11 p.m. visible on the corners doing roving foot patrol. around the hospital in general. And, they're ambassadors for the university. We want them to engage with all of our stakeholders as they're here on campus. Campus itself has really been, our activations from the one cards were about 3,500 per day, Monday through Friday, which doesn't give us a true count for how many folks are on campus, but that gets us approximate. So we do have a lot of people here on campus, more than we've had in March and April for sure.
Right, and one thing to mention is the security officers. Jointly, UMMC and UMB hired 30 new security officers to increase our presence on the campus, and they're in the red shirts, right, Chief?
Yes, they're in the red shirts. They're out and about, and our partnership with the hospital has really been a blessing. It's going well. So we meet with them twice a month, and we're working with Mo and Walter Brown to make sure that we're providing a safe place for everybody.
Gotcha. Any other questions related to security, Alex?
Well, Ashley Vallis has an anecdote that I think she'd like to pass along about the comfort dogs or comfort dog. Ashley, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Of course.
Oh, great. So as you know, Dr. Jarrell, I'm still on maternity leave, but my daughter is doing virtual school from home, and we took a walk through campus today to grab lunch. And up next to us pulled Officer J.R. Jones and Lexi, the comfort dog. And Millie was able to get Lexi's business card and some pets in. And so Lexi is out and about today on patrol and busy keeping everyone safe. So I just thought when I heard her mentioned, I would let you all know that she was out as of 12:30 today.
And you didn't have to social distance with her, did you?
No, exactly right. She just is there for doing her job, and her business cards are fabulous for the kids.
Gotcha. Okay, Alex?
All right, well, we still have anonymous questions. Don't take this personally. I think people are just a little camera shy, so don't take it the wrong way. But one serious question is about childcare, and if you've thought, childcare is on a lot of our minds these days because people are home and they're wrestling with it. Is that something that you've given more thought to, or are there future plans for expanded childcare on campus?
Well, we put a tremendous amount of thought into that, I think, and I'd like you to patch in Dawn Rhodes as well. But my comments would be, we have decided that it's certainly not prudent for us to open a child care center at UMB under the current circumstances. So right now there is no plan to do that. That's not to say something couldn't be reconsidered in the future, but it's a safety issue right now, and we don't feel comfortable with that. We have looked at a lot of different ways to assist people, and I've been schooled on this one. It's not just about child care, it's about elder care and other kinds of care as well at home. Dawn, I see we've got you here. Would you like to make some other broader comments on this?
Sure. And Alex, you must be able to control my camera because I can't control it from where I am.
No, I can't. You have to turn it on. I don't. That's something you got to do on your end.
Okay. I see when you change. Okay.
There you go. Yes. Now you're good. Yeah.
So, childcare has been a problem pre-COVID, and we have tried our best to be attentive to solutions. And I mean, so most people should know that we do have a childcare center on campus. So it's not that we don't have one. We don't have enough childcare slots that I think people are looking for. And so what we're trying to do specifically during COVID is trying to help people make connections. So one of the benefits that our employee assistance program is offering for both childcare and elder care is to help. Once you have an appointment with them, you can describe your situation and they will provide you with different childcare services that are near you and talk about pricing. They'll give you a report basically. So they do a lot of the groundwork that you would typically need to do. And I can remember When I was a mom with 4 kids, I would have loved someone to have just handed me a report and said, here are all your options versus having to spend the time to do that. With elder care, you're even able to use this program to arrange for elder care if your mom lives in Ohio. So you don't have to be in the actual state. They will produce reports for you related to the location of your parent. We are listening to people. We are trying to put together ways members of our campus community can come together electronically and possibly be able to create childcare situations or elder care situations if they live closer together, et cetera. So we are trying to do everything we can short of building a new child care center on campus. And we continue to stay open to suggestions.
Do you want to mention any HR policies or changes that have happened over the last couple of months that make it a little easier?
Well, I think one of them has been just the telework policy itself. Pre-COVID, you really weren't supposed to be doing telework as well as childcare or elder care at the same time. And we've totally removed that stipulation from the policy. We are encouraging, we're doing training with supervisors to be flexible in terms of a person's workday to allow them to focus on getting the work done within the time frame that really works well within the whole situation. We're just trying to be as focused on helping people get through this with the full support of the university behind them. I can't think of any other specific ones right now.
Carryover of vacation?
That is one that will be going to the board at our next board meeting. And what it will allow is for people to carry over 80 weeks of vacation time, 80 hours, thank you, 80 hours of vacation time, and you'll have 2 years to spend that time. Now, should you leave the university before that and there's a payout, you'll only be paid out the max. You won't be able to add those additional 2 weeks of time on there. But that is in recognition that people haven't been able to use vacation time.
Yeah, I don't even know what a vacation is anymore. How would
We
you
know.
take the time? Exactly. Exactly. Alex, I think we got time for one parting question if you have one.
Oh, we have so many of them now all of a sudden here. But I think this is one that a lot of people are wrestling with, and it's about coming to campus, the rules for coming to campus. If you can summarize kind of what those are. It's a little complicated, but if you could just talk about how people can come to campus, do they need to get tested, that sort of thing.
I may not be able to give all the details. The general details are if you're coming to campus, you need to register for the Safe on Campus system, and you need to be recording any symptoms if you have any on a daily basis while you're coming in. And as a physician, I would say in a couple of days before would make good sense to me. We also have a policy that has really been driven by the system to some extent, but in which I'm in agreement to say that if you're coming on campus regularly, you need to have a recent COVID test. Originally, that was pre-Labor Day. Now we've added one post-Labor Day sometime now. I got another one myself yesterday. So that's kind of the general rules. Dawn, did I leave anything out? You're pretty close to that.
There are so many iterations of, and based on how much time you actually will work in a given month, I am going to encourage everyone who has a question about this to go to our frequently asked questions. There's frequently asked questions and policies out there that you can read and make sure you're getting it absolutely correct.
Alex?
All right, that's good. I did want to bring in one questioner who I'm not going to introduce because I think she doesn't need an introduction. Are you there? We'll call you CW.
Yes, I'm here.
It's Clara. Hello, Clara.
Hi, Jarrell. So I like to say, ask really quickly. You know, I get to watch the master work in his art. And I want to make sure that you're going to keep working on your blacksmithing, adding more projects to the campus.
Well, for all of you on the call, my comment would be this. Work-life balance is exceedingly important. For me, it's necessary for my creativity at work to have creativity out in my workshop. And I would urge all of you to force time to make that happen. Now, it's been hard for me the last couple of months, but at the same time, if I don't do it, my effectiveness goes down. So I think, Clara, your point is a good one, that all of us need to do that, myself included. I haven't planned another campus project yet, although we are working on the nursing school edition, and there is plan for, I think they call it a green wall within the nursing edition, and we're talking about some kind of art there, not necessarily ironwork art, but some kind of art. So I think keeping art alive on this campus, not only has it been good for us, but I think it's been growing, and which reminds me to urge all of you, if you're on campus, to go to Penn Street. Penn Street, right?
Yes.
To walk underneath the overhang there. What street?
I didn't have you on my list.
On Penn Street, there's a bunch of art.
I'm sorry.
I think we got hacked.
No, I'm not sure who that is.
All right, well, so I urge you to go to Penn Street because the art on the wall there is fabulous. So I think we're out of time.
Able to find them.
So Alex, I appreciate.
If you can find them.
Okay.
I'm gonna before I want you to be able to say goodbye to everyone without having all this
Okay, is this
going
going
on.
to be you?
Now you can say goodbye without the interruption. Sorry.
So I want to thank you all for attending this. I hope it's useful. It'll be one of many. We'll have many more discussions about this. And the processes we're going to have to use in the next couple of years are going to involve a broad swath of the campus. So I urge you to be active, participate. I'll need your help. We'll all need your help. So with that, I'll give a parting adieu and look forward to the next time. So thank you.